The sun rises again. And once again, dawn's light shines on a peculiar battlefield. It's a place that is constantly bombarded by tons of seawater. With each wave, the sea unleashes some of its formidable energy. The rocks along the coastline stoically endure the sea's assault. Upon these rocks, and inside their trench-like crevices, an astonishing community of animals struggles to survive. Living beings are organized in the exact same way on every coastline throughout the width and breadth of the planet. All rocky coastlines follow the same pattern and are arranged according to the amount of moisture that reaches the rocks on the coast surface from the ocean spray and the tides. This battlefield, which is constantly being pounded by the sea, is plagued with living beings. Marine organisms lie in wait under the water, ready to conquer each new tide pool, while other beings arrive from inland to take advantage of the abundant food supplies so generously thrown ashore by the ocean's waves and the tides. The rocky coast is divided into various sections, originally defined by the type of animals that inhabit them. This zoning demonstrates how every coastline in the world follows the same model. In order to understand this, you need only observe the waves hitting the shore and breaking on the cliffs with their tireless rhythm. When the sea is especially rough, every centimeter of the coast surface can bear over 10 tons of pressure per square meter throughout the day. If this pressure were applied all at once, it would be enough to crush any form of life. Fortunately, this is not the case. When it comes to generating life, rocky coasts have the advantage of creating masses of tiny ecosystems that are used by a multitude of varied beings who live clinging onto the rocks, hiding in their crevices, protected by the seaweed. The rocky area is divided in 3 very distinct sections, depending on the amount of moisture required by the beings who inhabit them. That is to say, on their exposure to the tides and to the ocean spray. First is the high water zone, where periwinkles live. This is the strip farthest from the sea, and the temperature is a determining factor here. The thermometer varies several degrees throughout the day, and few can resist this. Periwinkles thrive on this strip. In fact, this marine snail is prevalent in this area precisely because of its ability to withstand drastic changes in temperature. During high tide, periwinkles are submerged in water and enjoy a constant temperature. But low tide leaves them exposed for several hours a day. These mollusks are commonly found on the rocks off the coast, and they feed on the seaweed that grows there. They scrape at the rock's algae-covered surface using their hard, sharp teeth, called radula. Periwinkles are very resistant to heat and can even withstand temperatures above 40 degrees Celsius. This singular quality allows them to explore areas far removed from the surf. The sudden plunge in temperature as the tide rises stimulates the periwinkles to become more active. Another very tough species competes to resist along with the periwinkle, even though this animal cannot move. These are acorn barnacles. The various species of barnacles are spread out according to their ability to resist desiccation, and many species live on the edge of the wave splashes. Despite their appearance, these are crustaceans and are related to shrimp. They can only move their first few days of life. Then they fix themselves to a hard spot that's hit by waves fairly frequently. When water floods the little tide pools they live in, they open their shells and shake their legs to catch suspended matter. The second ecological zone is close by and also very striking. It's known as the intertidal zone, where mussels live. The tides play a more important role here than the sea's splashing waves do. The creatures who have settled here, between the tide lines, alternate every 10 to 12 hours between living submerged in the water and living above the surface. Mussels form enormous colonies with thousands of individuals who latch onto the rocks and feed themselves by filtering the seawater. Goose barnacles lead a similar life, They are permanently attached to the rocks, but they need more moisture. That is why they live in areas where the water is much rougher, so that they are constantly hit by the waves and can more frequently filter the water to get their food. Goose barnacles form dense clusters that compete for space with other mollusks and algae that literally cover every millimeter of the rock's surface. Since they are constantly under tremendous pressure from predators, the animals and plants that live here have no choice but to be born survivors. Land-living animals, particularly seabirds, find the area where the mussels live to be very appealing. These seabirds often patrol the rocks, painstakingly rummaging through every inch of land on the surface. They know that the algae, the little tide pools, and the rock's crevices hide a varied and appetizing fauna made up of worms, mollusks, and crustaceans. Larger birds such as the egret are excellent hunters, and they also take advantage of the low tide to lie in wait of their prey. This is when their victims are left stranded inside the little tide pools. These heron are real experts in hunting for fish in coastal areas, and they include an enormous variety of different species in their diet. However, seagulls are the most frequent visitors to the mussels' intertidal zone. Seagulls are above all coastal birds. They find their sustenance all along the coastline. Each day, they skillfully fly up and down following the shoreline. When they find food, they flutter about, clamoring and attracting the whole flock's attention. They know that the sea often throws out organic waste, dead fish that were pounded against the rocks, or corpses of other animals. This is a good opportunity for the entire flock to satisfy its hunger in the midst of the birds' ongoing quarrels. Crabs are fast creatures capable of traveling up and down the coast, moving from one strip to another. They will bring us into the third ecological zone, known to scientists as the low water zone, which is the area where algae abound. Here we'll find those creatures who are most afraid of desiccation, since they cannot survive outside water for long. Their lives are ruled by the changing tides. The sea's relentless rising and falling can dramatically affect their luck. For the organisms that live here, desiccation is a source of stress. That is why they've adapted in order to maintain a minimum degree of moisture, even when the water completely disappears at low tide. The sea anemone's mucus is one such mechanism. When there is no water, these creatures are able to fold themselves over. Most intertidal pools along the coastline are created within this zone. These shallow tide pools have their own distinct physical and chemical properties, with significant differences in the levels of oxygen, temperature, salinity, and acidity. The organisms who live in these tide pools have special physiological adaptations that allow them to resist these constant fluctuations. Despite their inconveniences, the tide pools house a wide variety of organisms capable of taking advantage of the ecosystem's more amicable side. That is to say, plenty of food and shelter from predators and from the waves. And it's also a good place to give birth to their young. In short, the tide pool's biodiversity is remarkable. Sea urchins commonly inhabit the tidal pools along the coast, but they must always stay underwater. They use their quills to wear away the rock and find refuge in this custom-made cavity. However, they can move about easily to look for food. With their strange mouth, made up of 5 mobile teeth, they graze at the rock's surface, where an infinite number of algae grow and thrive. Sea urchins are able to walk thanks to their mobile quills and their ambulacral feet. These extremities have a powerful sucker on the end that helps them move in every direction. Their ambulacral feet work like a sort of hydraulic device. They are propelled by a network of tubes filled with liquid. Aside from forming these small and crowded cities, the coastal tide pools also make great daycare centers. Cuttlefish, who swim freely all along the coast, often enter the tide pools and use them to lay their bundles of eggs. After all, the tidal pools are rarely stalked by any of its great predators. The little cuttlefish safely hatch here one at a time. Here they can hide their first few days of life, safe from enemies, though they are already born with a full survival kit and an innate skill for camouflaging themselves. They will have these little crustaceans as neighbors for some time. Hundreds of species of shrimp and prawn live their entire lives confined to the tiny tidal pools up and down the coastline. Shrimp exploit the tide pool's advantages to the full. They have a wide variety of food here, as well as excellent protection. The cracks in the rocks are a perfect hiding place and a good place to find shelter from the sun until nightfall. The hundreds of little shrimp now clinging to this female's abdomen will be born here. These larvae will soon form part of the intense wildlife of the coastal tidal pools. And in no time, they will join the enormous army of creatures who participate in the ardent dispute between the sea and the land.